Hey guys, so we're gonna do a Legends Q&A video. I expect the next 2 weeks, right? So we know Legends Fest. We know it's actually been confirmed now, but this is what I suspected for a bit at this point. Legends Fest is going to begin on the 22nd on that Friday. So we have a little bit under 2 weeks before the celebration begins. So, you know, we got some downtime here. I don't really expect anything major to drop between now and then. They did mention that Goku and Bardock are going to be getting their unique equipment, so I imagine that will come out on the 13th next week. And besides that, I mean, we're going to get a Zenkai too, right? They mentioned that, but, you know, no new characters or anything. So going to be relatively quiet, I think, between now and Legends Fest beginning. So we will do a Q&A. This is going to be very brutally honest. Like, I'm not going to be watering down any of my answers. This is going to be actually not to say I have lied in the past for my answers to some of these, but sometimes I do tend to not censor myself, but not convey the full extent of what I feel about certain topics. So we're not going to do that this time. We're just going to be fully raw, and these are my blatant thoughts on whatever topics you guys bring up and want to discuss here. So we'll just go through in order. Do I think it's time for an Ultra LF? They say for like say for Fest they do LF fusing Zamasu if Super Saiyan 4 Goku and an Ultra LF MUI that's on both banners like year 1 and 2. No, and the reason why I don't think so. Let me just go over to Ultras here. I think the only reason they even conceptualized of the Ultra rarity is to re-release some of these hype characters as a new rarity, right? They sort of ran through all the different iterations of Super Vegito, all the different iterations of Super Gogeta, of Vegito Blue, of Gogeta Blue, of, you know, the hype characters in the series, the fusions. So now what they're doing is they're just going through all of those characters again as Ultras, and we haven't been through all of them yet. And now with the Synchro Gauge mechanic being in the game, we can go through a lot of those characters again as LFs. So I don't think there's any reason for them to go down the path of doing LF Ultras, because there's more they can milk out of the Ultra rarity for the super hype characters for now, right? So I think once we've gone through all the hype characters as Ultras, then what they can simply do is just re-release them again as Ultra LFs. That's the whole plan. That's what they're going to do. So I don't think it's coming yet, but at some point it will, yeah. Do you think the devs actually play the game and test what they are about to release? No, the answer is no to this. Or do they just make the kits in yellow? Yeah, pretty much. Which leads to certain units being uber broken and certain units being underwhelming. Yeah, yeah, 100%. And this is something that's been pretty obvious for a while, but it became especially obvious when we take a look at someone like Glorio. This is probably one of the dumbest things I've ever seen on a 2024 summonable. I mean, he is a headlining character, right? This. The following effects occur upon landing a strike and a blast arts hit. This is counterintuitive to itself. This is like your first time ever creating a character in this game, you do this, and then you realize it's terrible and you never do it again. Like, it's very obvious and easy to understand that this is like the dumbest thing ever. And so the fact that, you know, we have characters coming out 6.5 years into the game with mechanics that make no sense and are essentially trash, it serves to be very obvious that they don't play their own game. I would actually be very surprised if anyone on the development team, anyone on the balance team, has even been close to God rank once. I'd be very surprised. Since part 3 is likely going to be UI or Beast, assuming we don't get a left field pick. Yeah, I think those are very likely picks for part 3 Ultra, yeah. Do you think they'll finally pull the trigger on Ultra LFs? Okay, so it's sort of a similar question here. The answer I don't think is yes. I think the answer is no, and the reason why is because they just have more they can milk out from Ultras, right? We have not gotten Ultra UI. We have not gotten Ultra Beast. So I think what will probably happen is once they decide to pull the trigger on Ultra LF characters, those will take the place of just being for the big celebrations. I think it'll just be for Anniversary. It'll just be for Legends Fest. And then what will probably happen is the normal Ultras that are not Ultra LFs will just continue being released in between those celebrations. So we'll still get characters like Ultra Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, Ultra Turles, stuff like that in those slots. But I think reserved specifically for the big celebrations, you know, i.e. Legends Fest and Anniversary, I think those will just be Ultra LFs, maybe moving forward from there. Just so that they can re-release, you know, Super Vegito and Gogeta for the 9th time as a new rarity. Should the devs start introducing character adjustments after release, similar to how they used to in the early days? Given a celebration LF does not perform as expected, Super Saiyan God Goku vs Ultimate Gohan, should a unique be released for said unit closer to their release time frame? Yeah. So I don't know if they would go back to doing balance adjustments. That's something we saw. When was the last balance adjustment? That it must have been like right after the first anniversary, maybe, is when they did the last ever balance adjustment for characters, because this was before Zenkai's released, right? Zenkai's came out about a year and a half into the game, so I think probably the last time we ever got balance, I can't remember the exact time it was, but probably somewhere in the vicinity of like right after the first anniversary. There is, I don't think of any way they go back to doing something like that, but I am in the camp of them doing this. So for a character like Super Saiyan God Goku, a character like Transforming Red Broly, a character like Super Vegeta, who they just simply do not perform. And I think a lot of it is just because of this question. Do they play their own game or not? The answer is they play their game, but they're terrible at their own game. That's what I'm assuming. I mean, there's no other explanation for this. There's too big of a variance. For me, the best way and the most indicative way to tell how good a development team is when you look at the variance in performance of characters that come out in a very similar proximity to each other. We have a character, look at this. Let's go to the just normal unfiltered list here. So this is typically in order. The only characters that are not in order here are the Ultra characters. Look at this. We have this back-to-back releases, LF Omega Shenron, LF Red Broly. How is there so much variance here? Can anybody explain this? We have same time banners, Ultimate Gohan and God Goku. What is the variance here? And what is the variance in the banner units? Evil Boo versus Beerus? This is a very egregious difference. I would say God Goku versus Ultimate Gohan, this should never happen. This should never happen. If you want to hear my honest thoughts, this is even worse. Boo versus Beerus. You compare these characters directly. This is like, what? This Beerus is like a 2020 character. We're 2024. This is a 2020 character compared to Evil Boo, who's a 20. There's like a 3 to 4 year gap in between these characters' performance. Okay, let's keep going. Super Vegeta drops. Then we get Ultra Gohan. Can anybody explain the variance? Again, that is the most telling aspect to me of a development team that just has no clue what they're doing. And I think this has gotten much worse this year. I think if we took a look at some of the prior years, we never saw anything even remotely close to this. And I made a comment a few times recently. I would say that, starting in Legends Fest 2021 up through the beginning of this year, they've done a relatively good job at developing the game and managing the game. But this year has been a different story entirely. This year has not been good. This has not been a good year for Legends. Straight up. Again, I'm not going to hold anything back in this video. Not a good year at all. So yes, I think if we do have very big discrepancies in performance between characters that come out very close to each other, or for example, characters that come out and like immediately, day one, we know off the bat that they're not going to be good, they should already be coming out with a way to adjust for that issue. They should. Yes, I am in favor of this. Would Yajirobe make a good Secretary of Defense? Yeah, we'd have like infinite Senzu beans for our military. That'd be great. With all the crazy characters and mechanics we've had in 2024, what's your opinion on the game's trajectory this year? Does 2024 stand out from previous years positively or negatively? Yeah, I would say it stands out negatively. I think the one shining aspect of this year that has been very good, number one, I think the fact that they have brought back unique equipment for Legends Limited characters is a good thing. The only thing is a lot of them have been very mediocre. Like we got this for Saiyan. Imagine releasing an equipment for Saiyan Saga Piccolo. Do you understand how insane this would have had to have been to make him at least somewhat relevant again? So they need to, if they're actually going to do things like this, the only character I think that got like a really good one is the Gammas. The Gammas are good, right? They're not like top of the line insane, but this is at least going to make them usable again. Every single unique equipment that comes out for LF characters should be at least on the level of how good this was relative to how good the Gammas were before they got this. But overall, I think the fact that they're at least trying to make the unique equipments good for LF characters, like remember last year, we pretty much didn't even get one. I don't think we got any. for LF characters last year. So they've gone back to this. I think the fact that they're at least doing this again is good, but they have not been on the ball at all with that. But the one major thing of this year that I thought has been a very big and exciting thing was the synchro gauge mechanic. The part 1 of the 6th anniversary introducing the fusing characters. This was a big W for me. This has been the major issue that I've found with this game, and this goes back a long time. There is a severe lack of innovation and ingenuity and creativity, whatever the adjective you want to use to describe the monotony of this game. There's been a huge lack of creativity and like new and fresh mechanics that make the game feel different. If you go back last year, I don't even know, like halfway or even early 2023, the game doesn't really play different than it does now. And the reason why is because there have not been almost any new mechanics that they've dropped at all throughout the course of these 2 years, besides the synchro gauge mechanic. We've had stuff like auto dodging the gauge with this guy. We've had like anti-cover change stuff. We've had comebacks, but those aren't really changing the flow of the game as opposed to something as big as like the synchro gauge mechanic. The synchro gauge mechanic is actually like, I would just be a very fun mechanic. And it kind of reminds me a little bit, I wouldn't say it's as big as the tag mechanic in general, but it does feel reminiscent of the tag mechanic. A lot of people still to this day look back at the 2021 Legends Fest celebration with the introduction of the tag mechanic and consider that to be the best ever celebration in Legends. And I think a lot of it has to do with the impact and the excitement surrounding like a fresh mechanic like the tag mechanic. And we really haven't seen anything like that since. And I'm just a bit confused as to why, right? We can go through a lot of these characters, and I actually am a big fan of characters like Ultra Omega. I think is a really good unit. I am a big fan of characters like Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks. They don't have any like super annoying mechanics per se. They're just solid all around. But like, what is Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks bringing to the table that's like mega exciting? What is Omega Shenron bringing to the table that's mega exciting? Nothing. Not even Ultras. What is Majin Vegeta? Besides being the first summonable Ultra Vegeta character, what is Majin Vegeta as a character? You know, when you take a look at his mechanics and his abilities, what is he actually providing to the game that makes it feel exciting? The answer is nothing. Nothing is the answer. That's what's missing from the game. And I feel like the lack of those mechanics in this year, again, except for the synchro gauge, has made this year stand out as just being a little bit monotonous and bland to me. And I feel like they haven't done a good job this year. Do I think Legends will do super Zenkais like super easy A's? No, and the reason why is because they have introduced the equipment. I think that's sort of their way of doing the super Zenkais. I don't really like this mechanic. Where are they? So something like this, like the purple Turles equipment, like these are like specific pieces of equipment for Zenkai characters to make them, I guess, somewhat relevant again. This is what they're doing, so I don't know if they're going to do Super Zenkais. They'd also have to actually invest resources into doing, different areas of the soul boosting board. Like, how would that work? How would their Zenkai abilities change? Would the Z abilities change? Are they really going to spend the development time to then add that into the rotation? Because right now, essentially what we have is new banner, equipment for Legends Limited units. We have a free character coming out every now and then. And we have Zenkai characters. So they'd have to include like the Super Zenkai in there somehow. I don't know if they have the capacity or resources to be able to do that. So I would say no. Have I expected the next 2 weeks to be dead for the last 4 months? Yes. Yeah, because every year before Legends Fest is dead. Same thing with Anniversary. With how bad most banners, except Gotenk's banner in 2024, have been, is it even worth it for non-whales to start the game? And should the game get a legit training mode like a fighting game to practice in? So we got like 2 questions here. The first one, I would agree with this. I think most banners have been really bad. The Gotenk's banner has been really good. I don't know why they just... maybe it's because they thought people wouldn't summon on Gotenks, which I understand. Gotenks is not a very exciting character. But yeah, the Gotenk's banner was good. Yes, there has been a trend... And I guess this is something that will continue as we get more and more characters into the game. They have no shame in adding super outdated and bad characters to banners. Like, let's pull up some of the banners we've gotten. Summon. I guess we could take a look at the Majin Vegeta banner. What about this? take a look at this one. We know the Gotenks banner is good, so I'm not really going to talk about that one. What are some other banners? You can pull up Turles' banner, and we can treat my Goku. Okay, so Majin Vegeta's banner. I think Ultra banners are probably a little bit different because you're never going to be summoning on these banners with the intention of pulling, or I guess even wanting to pull, essentially anything besides the main Ultra character. This guy's bad, they're bad, bad, bad. Like, okay, banner's terrible. We got this banner, which is up until, by the way, March 31st. Bad, bad, okay, bad, decent, bad. So banner's bad. Turles. Bad, bad, okay, decent. I would say he's okay to decent. So overall, the banner's pretty bad. Treat my Goku. Bad, 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 insane. Bad to mediocre. Bad, bad, okay, bad. Okay. So this banner's bad. Okay, next. Oh, that's it. So yeah, like every banner's bad, essentially. And then we take a look at the Gotenks banner. Where's the Gotenks banner? This banner's crazy. Insane. I would say very good. Good. Bad. Bad. Very good. Okay. And then this guy's bad. So overall, the banner's really good. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4 of the LFs on the banner being like pretty damn good is good. That's really good. So this banner's a lot of value. But yeah, I would agree. Overall, the banners have been really bad. Like dude, they're putting like old characters on these banners. That's something that I think separates this game from Dokkan, is at least Dokkan a lot of the times just straight up stop. Like they almost discontinue characters from being included on banners when they reach a certain age because they know nobody's going to care. This game doesn't even care. They just say, oh, we'll put them on anyway. I think the only we're actually reaching a point, again, with the exception of like the Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks banner, where you could really make an argument that there's no point in summoning at all until we get to a big celebration. Like, don't summon outside of Anniversary and Legends Fest is a real argument you can make that I think actually has merit behind it. Should the game get a legit training mode like a fighting game to practice in? There's not really like. So the reason why, I'm not a huge fighting game player, so correct me if I'm wrong here, but the main reason why you would jump into a training mode as a fighting game player is because you would want to practice certain combos, and it's more so mechanic training, right? You're training your muscle memory when you're using when you're inputting the commands into the controller. That's the reason why you jump into a training mode in a fighting game, is because you want to get the muscle memory acclimated, get acclimated to the muscle memory of inputting certain commands to get the combos and get consistent with that. For this game, there isn't any of that. You just simply click the cards that are in your hand. So I don't know if like a traditional training mode would be as effective in this game as it is for a fighting game, like a traditional fighting game. But when it comes to like the Trunks tutorial missions and those things, I think they should for sure expand that, because I do actually think the Trunks training stages are pretty good. And I think they for a new player, if someone was going to start this game like as a new player, one of the things I would tell them to do almost immediately is to go through the Trunks training missions. Why do you think they held back so much on units like Zenkai VB, meanwhile releasing units that break the game way more than he would have with a good Zenkai? Because they don't play their game, they don't balance anything. What are your thoughts on the devs buffing certain tags like Universe Reps or GT constantly for a while and then completely dropping them? Regardless of if I like it or dislike it, what would you think would be a more healthy way to buff tags? Yeah, so this has been something that we started to see, well, I would say in 2023, because right now, like, we have two very prominent examples of this, right? Universe Reps in 2023, like you mentioned, and then GT this year. I would also throw in Majin Buu Saga as well this year. I am generally not a fan of that, and the reason why is because I like more of a variety, right? So for buffing just the same team throughout the entire year, you're gonna essentially be seeing the same characters the entire year. And even more so than that, here's the real problem with this. You want to see what the real problem is? Let me just get rid of some of these tabs that we don't need. Here's the real problem with this. If I open the Majin Buu Saga team here, this is the biggest offender in my opinion. Majin Buu Saga. What are the good characters on Majin Buu Saga? We have Majin Vegeta, that's 1. Gotenks, that's 2. Evil Boo, that's 3. Ultimate Gohan, that's 4. We have Fusing Super Vegeta, that's 5. And we have Zenkai Kid Buu, that's 6. So we have like 6 top tier Majin Buu Saga characters. Do you guys know how many characters you can bring into a fight? It's 3. So you're cannibalizing your own team when you release this many good characters on the same team here. Now, I wouldn't really say it's as big of a problem for Buu Saga, just because a lot of these characters you can use on other teams, right? It's not like, oh, we can only use 3 characters on Buu Saga, even though there's 6 good ones. That means those other 3 characters are worthless, right? I think characters like Gotenks, you can use him on Fusion Warriors, you could use him on hybrids, and he's still going to have a role there, even if you don't want to bring him on Buu Saga. Super Vegeta, you can use him on Goku Family, you could use him on Saiyans, on Vegeta Clan, and he'll still be good. Ultimate Gohan, you could use him on hybrids. Like, so there's other ways you can use these characters here, but if you're pushing Buu Saga like this, I feel like you are cannibalizing part of the team, and it's just boring, right? I mean, a lot of the reason why people play this game, other than, you know, people outside of just playing PvP competitively or playing PvP at a high level or whatever you want to call it, is because people genuinely just enjoy using characters from Dragon Ball. And if you're going to give us just the same saga or the same, you know, Buu Saga or GT or Universe Wraps, and it's just going to be the same thing the whole year, that can, you know, it's just not enjoyable for a lot of people that, you know, number one, maybe not, they don't enjoy the arc as much. Like maybe there's somebody who's just not a fan of the Universe Survival Saga. Maybe there's somebody who's just not a fan of GT. And so if you're going to be constantly buffing the same thing the whole year, it could leave those people out. You know, not even from just a standpoint of how good these characters are going to be in a competitive PvP environment. 'Cause that's sort of not even, it's not even a factor, I would say. So I'm not a huge fan of them doing this. I guess when you're asking what would I think would be a more healthy way of buffing tags, I've thought about this. I think everyone would agree that the episode campaign format is just bad. I honestly think the best way to do it is you just don't have campaigns. I think the best way you do this is you just release characters on a banner. So let's just say they're gonna, I don't know, let's just take a random tag as an example. I don't know, Vegeta Clan. Let's just say they drop, I don't know, an LF God Vegeta is like the next LF character that they're gonna drop. So we're not going to Legends Fest. Like they just drop another LF here and it's gonna be God Vegeta. Like, I don't think you need to have a full month of a celebration surrounding God Vegeta. I think they need to target certain teams that need help. You know, God Key, Vegeta Clan, things like that. Make a character that helps the team to fill in the gaps that it needs to fill in, and then release the character that fills those gaps, and then they just move on to the next tag that needs help. And then you keep doing that, and you keep in, I don't even know the best way to describe this. Like you're looking at teams that need to be pushed up. And that's where you're prioritizing your focus on. We don't need to have these themed around episodes. We don't have to have these themed around certain teams. Just focus on the areas where teams need help and just drop characters to help those teams. Again, we don't need to have these month-long celebrations. Oh, we're heading into the Cell Saga celebration. Oh, get ready for an action-packed Cell Saga theme. Like, that doesn't help the game progress. I guess it's an interesting way to do it just from a thematic standpoint, but when you're talking about it actually having like an enjoyable environment in the game, I don't think that helps in any way. So I think even just like scrap the concept of campaigns. Like, why do we even need these? And just focus more on the characters themselves. We don't need focus on the characters. The characters is what makes the game the way it is. Okay. Why do they test new battle adjustments for battle versions in Legends Battle Royale? Because they are so dumb. Okay, that's my answer. My answer is because I don't have a logical explanation for this other than that they are dumb. Okay, that is my answer. If I would have control over this, how would I test the new battle versions? Simple. You have 2 PvP ladders. You have normal, standard ranked mode combined with proud mode. That's the way it is right now. You have one. I guess it kind of is split already into 2 ladders. So you have one proud ladder. But the rankings are kind of shared, I guess, between them, right? It's weird. I actually don't like how they do that. I don't like how proud and standard are both ranked in the same ladder. It's very strange, but that technically is one ladder, but it's between 2 different modes. I would have a completely separate ladder I would call it like the battle system testing ladder, and you would be ranked completely separately from standard and proud, and it would just be solely based on, you know, you testing out the change in the battle system. And you'd obviously probably have to get more rewards for that than you would from standard mode, just to incentivize people to play in there. And you would get separate rewards. So at the end of the season, depending on where you rank, you would get separate rewards from the standard mode. So you could actually get double rewards for getting ranked in both of the ladders. But that's the way I would do it. Having a system where you're trying to collect data on whether or not a change is good based on a mode that limits how many times you can play, number one. Number two, has a terrible matchmaking system because it's not going to match you up with people that you're actually going to have, like, you know, a valuable interaction with. Like, it makes no sense no matter which way you think about it. So I just don't. This is another piece of proof to me that they just simply don't play their own game. There's no way you can come to this conclusion that Legends Battle Royale in its current format is a good testing ground for battle system changes. There is no way. No way. That's how I would do this. What is my opinion about automatic counter gauge units like Ultra Majin Vegeta, Ultra Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta? Do you think the devs should continue or stop them completely? I personally believe it's extremely unhealthy for the game. No one likes being beaten by a mechanic that plays for you. Yeah, I would mostly agree with this. I think this character serves no purpose at all in the game. He doesn't bring any new mechanics to the game. He's not interesting to use. He's not interesting to play against. And I would argue that most of the mechanics he has are just not fun. And that's the biggest issue that I've had with the game so far. Like, again, I talked about this a little bit earlier, which none of these mechanics are actually fun. If you go back a long way back, I think I might have talked about this like right around when Ultra Janemba dropped. I think I talked about this. I think I talked about this even before then as well. The number one thing that they should be thinking about when designing characters and thinking about new mechanics to introduce into the game is not how strong is this, how weak is this. Those are important, but the number one thing should be how fun is this mechanic. I mean, am I wrong? Should the fun level of mechanics be a factor that they consider when they make these abilities? To me, the answer is obviously yes. Let's go through some of these mechanics this guy's doing. So the first thing I'll just say is this should not exist in the game. AoE green cards should be discontinued. These should be a discontinued mechanic in this game. Up until, I would say, like right around the second anniversary, they were very comfortable with releasing characters that simply activated no switching for 10 counts on main ability. They don't do that anymore because it's insane. Because it's very unfun. It's very toxic. All those different ways to describe that mechanic are accurate. I would say the same thing about AoE green cards. AoE green cards promote a more rock, paper, scissors environment than any other mechanic in the game. I don't know why this needs to exist. I think this simply just promotes monotony in this game, in the gameplay in this game. I would say just discontinue this mechanic. Don't release. They don't need to like remove this from the game for characters who already have access to this. Like, they don't need to remove this, but just simply don't create characters that have this anymore. This entire mechanic is just not fun. Just don't do this anymore. The second one, like you mentioned, I think is just the counter gauge. I think this guy's counter gauge is a lot more toxic than a lot of other characters, just because, number one, he guaranteed counters you, like with a blue card lock in after this. And it's just very easy to get this. Like, people look back at Blue Gogeta, Ultra Blue Gogeta's counter gauge, which is very similar to this one. And this is like way worse, man. It's just like, again, this is not a fun mechanic to play against. I don't even think it's a fun mechanic to play as. I don't have fun using this. It just feels dumb to me. So that's another one. And then this. No switching. I don't like this. I think no switching is just very unfun. Would you guys agree? I just don't enjoy it. So there's so many things with this character that I just think don't need to be in the game. And I don't think there's nothing about this character that progresses the game to a point where it's becoming more fun or less fun. Actually, no. Take that. Scrap that. Progresses to the game where it's becoming more fun. I think it actually progresses the game to becoming less fun. I do think so. Yeah. So I'm not a fan of this. Other characters that have auto gauges. I mean, I don't know. Would you Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta? I guess, right? Yeah, it's an auto combo ending thing. Who else? Let me get out of Vegeta Clan. Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta has it. Ultra Super Saiyan. I mean, you guys, when this guy came out, people knew how dumb this character was too, and how annoying he was to fight against. Ultra UI, same thing. Ultra Janemba, same thing. This guy was crazy too on release. Yeah, I don't think these counter gauges are good. The automatic counter stuff. I think it's bad for the game. I think like this is like a cop out almost, right? When you're creating these counter gauges, whenever I see counter gauges on characters, all I'm gonna think to myself is they couldn't make the effort to think of a new and interesting mechanic, and instead they just gave him this counter gauge because they couldn't think of anything else. That's gonna be my mindset. So if we jump into Legends Fest and like part 1 gives us some character that has like an auto gauge, I'm immediately just going to say they couldn't think of a new and interesting mechanic, so they just gave him the counter gauge because they were lazy, or they just have no creativity at all. That's just the reality of things. Like, why are we duplicating the same mechanics over and over and over and over and over again? Is there a reason? I would like to know if there is. Do I think we could get a mechanic where you could choose your transformation mid-battle? Like, you could choose Super Saiyan or Super Saiyan 2 mid-battle and both have different passives. I don't know. It would be interesting. I mean, this is the type of thing that I think they should look into, right? When I'm saying things like there's no innovation, there's no creativity, it's the lack of mechanics like this. I'm not saying this specific one, but it's things like this that they choose not to do that is hurting the game, right? If you take a look at every single release this year, and this is not even an exaggeration, every single new character that drops, I would say 70 to 80% of their kit is the same. The only thing that separates good characters from bad characters is the 20% that's not the same. Every character has X% damage inflicted. Every character has X% reduced damage received. Every character has card draw speed. Every character has ways to get cover nullification. Every character has power down. Every character's got probably like endurance or comeback or whatever. They've got blast armor. Like, every character is the same, except for like 20% of them. And that's where the difference comes into play. And so I think it's just very, very monotonous. It's just very monotonous. So I think a mechanic like this, I would very much welcome something like this. Specifically this mechanic, I'm not sure. I mean, they would have to test it out and stuff like that. Could be interesting though. Do I think there's ever going to be a special banner with all ultras there to guarantee to pull one 3k to 5k CC like the end of the year banner? Maybe. We'll have to wait and see what they want to do with the New Year's step up, or whatever, the New Year's happy bag stuff. Something that is very weird to me still is that they are they put very high value and emphasis on ultra characters. I was actually really surprised when they put Ultra Super Gogeta Z Power in the Daima Exchange Shop, because, I mean, they're still releasing, they still release, dude, look at this. Where is it? Oh, I guess it went away. Look at this. They're releasing this as a banner. Hello? This is a banner they release. Are you kidding me? Why is this character by himself on a banner? This is the only good character on here. Like, why are they putting such high value on Ultra Super Vegito 2.5 years later? I don't understand. Because of that, I would say most likely no to this. I have no idea why they keep doing that. Besides the game being your main source of views and attraction for YouTube, what makes you keep playing it? What do you like about it so much? So I enjoy the game overall. I would say this year has definitely felt a bit, again, I'll use the same term, monotonous for new releases. We get, again, I'll go through the list here. This should be in order, right? Yeah. So we start the year off with GT Goku, who is right here. GT Goku, Super 17, at least Super 17 had some interesting things about him. I mean, he not very fun to fight against, but yeah. Super Vegeta, Baby, like who introduced like a brand new exciting mechanic? No one. Super 17 again, he had like the tap attack sealed card. It's not a new mechanic, but it's something different, but I'm still gonna call him monotonous. No new mechanic, no new mechanic, no new mechanic, no new mechanic. Anniversary, oh, also Nappa Vegeta, no new mechanic. And then Ultra Gohan, no new mechanic. We have the anniversary, new mechanics. Great. This is really good. This is the best part about the year so far by far, is the synchro gauge here. No new mechanic, 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 and no new mechanic, no new mechanic. I would say no new mechanic for this guy, but we've only had 2 characters ever that introduced the arts action mechanic. So I'll give this guy half a point. I'll give him half a point for having a kind of a new mechanic with the arts action. So sure. So outside of anniversary, again, 80% of the entire roster is doing the same thing, except for 20% of what they're doing, which I think is bad. So that to me has, again, it's sort of just felt like going. I guess I'll just use the term. This entire year has sort of just felt like it's been going through the motions, is what I'll say about this year. So hopefully they can at least give us some new stuff and innovative stuff, and that will make the game feel more fresh. In terms of just the overall game itself, I do enjoy it, but this year has been downhill for sure for me. Do I have an opinion when it comes to how many characters are in the game compared to how many characters are playable? We have so many characters in game, yet it feels like there's like 20, 30 characters that see play because others die out fast. Yeah, I mean, that's, I don't think, very out of the ordinary when it comes to games like this. There's a lot of power creep. I think they could definitely not do as much power creep. One thing I've been saying pretty consistently is when we get counters to characters, and I'm looking at Majin Vegeta, when we get counters to characters, they don't need to be out power creeping the character they're countering. They just need to be a good option to use against the character. This was the best example I can think of this is Kid Buu releasing as a counter to Gogeta Blue. Like, these are both fairly comparable characters in terms of how good they are in a vacuum to each other. Kid Buu just served as a very good counter to Gogeta when he came out because the AoE green, he changed his whole hand to strikes, and so he wouldn't have to worry as much about Gogeta's gauge. He removes buffs when the enemy rushes, so Gogeta couldn't just rush Kid Buu. He's type advantage. So this is a really good release, I think, actually, Kid Buu, when he dropped. I mean, I'm not a fan of AoE greens. I think they shouldn't be in the game anymore. But in terms of his interaction with Ultra Blue Gogeta, I thought this was a really good release at the time because he wasn't just straight up a better character than Blue Gogeta was, I don't think, but he was a good option to use against him. And I would say the same thing, honestly, about Trio Might Goku versus Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, right? He didn't directly power creep Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. He just served as a good option to use against him. That's the way we need to counter units in this game. We don't need Majin Vegeta dropping and just making this guy irrelevant, right? We don't need that. Honestly, it's more of a negative impact on the game overall than a positive impact on the game overall. And we don't need this massive power creep in between celebrations, right? I think if you look at what has happened between the 6th anniversary and now, characters like Gotenks, characters like Turles, characters like Majin, like, we're blowing by the 6th anniversary characters already. They're just getting left in the dust already. I think the main power creep should come from the big celebrations, Anniversary and Legends Fest, and everything in between those should just be fleshing out and catching up the teams that need help to the places where... So, for example, the 6th anniversary drops, we get a billion different Fusion Warrior buffs. We get, Sun Family buff. We get some God Key stuff. I mean, this guy should have been better, but, God Key help. GT gets help with Omega. And then from there, what we should be focused on is not outpacing the characters that released during the 6th anniversary. We should be catching up other teams that haven't gotten help during the 6th anniversary to be on the same level as those teams. And then we can start seeing, again, gradual buffs to the power creep of the game, the overall power level of characters, starting in Legends Fest. And then they just could follow the same pattern after Legends Fest. Whatever characters and teams got buffed in Legends Fest, we take a look at the teams that didn't get touched and get them up to speed with whatever is the best team right now. So That's the way I think they should be looking at this. I mean, even if we take a look here, I mean, there's a very obvious way we could show this. Let's take a look at the Part 1 6th anniversary characters, and let's compare them to someone like Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks, who's the most recent LF character to drop. So these guys came out at the end of May. Gotenks came out in October, right? So let's take a look here. These guys have 100% damage inflicted, and they're getting 70% of reduced damage received. Gotenks came out essentially 4 months later, 140% damage inflicted. He's got 70% reduced damage received, but then he's also got extra damage, reduced damage received here. So in the span of 4 months, we've gone up 40% damage inflicted here. So, I mean, that's just a very illustrative way of showing that power creep has just been insane. I don't think we need to do that. One of my thoughts on manga arc releases, namely the Moro arc, Ultra Ego, and Granola arc, Ultra Ego and Mastered Ultra Instinct, I think it's not going to happen, and I don't think it's up to the Dragon Ball Legends team of whether or not that's going to happen or not. I think it's the IP holder, Shueisha, Toei, and I don't think they're willing to do that right now. In your opinion, what was the worst / most toxic meta besides Red, LF, Super Saiyan 2, Gohan, OG Namek, Goku? And to counter that question, what was the most healthy meta? The worst / most toxic meta certainly is not the Super Saiyan 2, Gohan, and OG Namek, Goku meta. I think my least favorite meta of all time is Legends Fest 2023 UI Goku meta. No one would actually be able to play the game. You would just go, every match would go to timer, and no character would even be close to being dead. It would be Namek Goku, not Namek Goku, it would be UI Goku, Ultra UI Goku, Goku and Bardock, and Pikkon. And you would just find, it would just be mirror match with that team, and no one would die. You wouldn't be able to even attack the opponent because of auto dodging, which I think is one of the dumbest things I've ever released in this game. And it would go to timer, and you would just have no fun at all. You wouldn't be able to play the game. I think there's a very big difference between timer metas, right? Because we have the timer meta with what I just talked about, with this character releasing. We have this guy, Goku and Bardock and Pikkon. Every match in that game would go to timer because you wouldn't be able to play the game. But now, I mean, I would say there's a high percentage of matches that go to timer right now with Turles, Triomite, Goku, and, you know, Majin Vegeta, whatever the third character you want to throw on that team is. The difference is you do actually get to play the game a little bit. It's not like this meta is insane. I would say this meta is still pretty bad, but that doesn't compare to this. This meta is way worse, and I think my least fun time playing the game was with this guy's release. This guy is just a disaster. The most healthy meta, I don't know if the most healthy meta, I have to think about that, but I think generally people look back at the first anniversary pretty positively. Is like one of the better metas we've ever seen. Let me just take a look here. Anything more recent I could talk about? I think Legends Fest last year, like part 1 of Legends Fest, was pretty good. With Beast and Blue Kaioken Goku and Evolution Blue Vegeta. I think that meta was pretty good, actually. We had a lot of viable characters, a lot of viable teams. A lot of people consider that to be a really, really good meta, and I think I would agree with that too. How do I think a second plat of a Legends Limited character should be designed? You mean unique equipment. The second one, I talked about this a little bit earlier. They just need to be, I would probably say, again, about as good as the Gammas. If the Gammas, if they made unique equipments for Legends Limited characters as good as the one they made for the Gammas, then I think that's fine. I think they were in a good spot. So anytime they do one of these equipments, I think just making sure the character that's getting that equipment ends up being as good as the Gammas were when they got their equipment, I think is probably good enough. How far do I think the game can go? I know it's a vague question, but judging by the game's release, it seems that every month is pretty much a new meta. Do I think it's a good thing or a bad thing? You're talking about power creep, I guess, right? Yeah, I think power creep is too high right now. How far do I think the game can go? Like that, are you asking in terms of like when I think the game's going to shut down? Probably not for a long time, number one. If you're asking how far do I think the game could go in terms of power creep, I think, so right now, again, I'll mention this again. I think power creep is too high. I think it is too fast. I think they should mainly be focusing on power creep during the big celebrations. That's when I think it's okay for them to push the power level of characters a little bit. Not like completely making the rest of the game irrelevant, but they should be able to push the limits of power creep during the anniversary and during Legends Fest. In between, they should focus on getting the other teams up to speed with the rest of the game. That's what I think. I think they definitely could push even more power creep, but I don't think it's a good idea. Do I think Gohan vs. Goku on Beerus Planet at the end of the Legends Fest release trailer means anything? No. What will be my reaction when Legends ever releases a cooler character with a modern type, like Zenkai, the LF version, or release Ultra or Legends Limited transforming versions? I'd be happy because I like cooler. I just think they did a horrible job designing the original cooler. I've personally stopped playing Legends for a bit since the game is very dry and boring right now. How do you think the game can keep periods between festival and anniversary interesting? They just gotta, again, I think the biggest problem with the game right now is just they gotta introduce new mechanics with characters. We can't get Legends Limited character A who has 5% of a different kit than the character who released last month. That's not going to be interesting, right? I think a lot of what they're banking on is just the character themselves, like the character pick itself being exciting enough, right? Okay, we released, LF, I don't know, I'm just making a character. We released LF Vegeta when he goes Super Saiyan for the first time. But he's 90% the same as the character we released last month. But because we are gearing this release towards Vegeta fans, we think it's good enough. No, the answer is it's not good enough because you actually have to differentiate characters from each other. You can't be the same character again and again and again. It's not going to be fun. And that's the biggest problem with the game. We'll do like one or two more. Do you think the drought between Anniversary and Legends Fest that's been getting worse every year hurts the game's longevity? The game was so boring that I said screw it and summoned for Ultra Turles out of sheer boredom despite me not particularly liking the character. The Z movie celebration is the worst celebration ever. In the history of Dragon Ball Legends, that is the single worst celebration. Not exaggerating. I think it is the single worst 2-month span in the game's history. It did nothing to help the game. We got Broly, who was basically honestly, the difference between him releasing and not releasing is zero. His release did nothing. It accomplished nothing. Very sad. And then they released a Mega Rising Banner Mega Rising Banner shouldn't exist in the first place. There's no reason for Mega Rising Banners to exist. Should have just been an LF banner. They should have just made Goku and Piccolo an LF. There's no reason why they shouldn't have made them an LF, because then they would have made them better. And they would have actually had an impact on the game. So that the first month and a half of Legends Fest, or not Legends Fest, of the Z movie celebration was essentially just nothing. It's nothing. And then we had terrible Zenkai choices. We had pretty bad, in between weeks, I like to call them, with just Zenkais and equipment dropping. It was horrible. It was really bad. The Turles crew dropped, who were all terrible. Trio Might Goku was obviously really good, but then we saw his true power when Turles dropped. And I think a lot of people didn't like Turles. They didn't like the design of him. I think just the choice of dropping Turles as an ultra character. Think about this. We go 2 months of just desert. 2 months of just absolute desert. And then they give us Ultra Turles. And I think most people don't even enjoy the design of Ultra Turles. He's the obvious number one. Him plus Trio Might Goku are the biggest two culprits for timer count meta right now. And I think most people are not a fan of that. So, all right, we'll make this the last one. If you could give any character that has a minor role or is not as well liked as other characters a meta-defining kit, like Super 17, for example, who would you pick? Well, I guess it depends on how you classify that. Let's go down the list here. What characters that don't have... So you're using Super 17, huh? Minor role or not as well liked? Well, my answer would have been Garlic Jr., but we're not going to do that anymore, I guess. I think Namek Saga Piccolo. would be my pick. Namek Saga Piccolo is probably my favorite version of Piccolo. Do we even have that in the game? We have the EX Yellow Piccolo. Right? That's essentially it. Let's just go to Piccolo here. Yeah, there's actually like not many Piccolos in the game. 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 12 Piccolos in the entire game, including EXs and heroes and tags. Yeah, we don't have Namek Piccolo in the game. This is the only one. I actually didn't even think about that. Yeah, I think it would definitely be Namek Piccolo. 6.5 years in, we don't have Namek Piccolo. I would like that as a pick, Namek Piccolo. So, there we go. You guys can let me know down below what you think. Again, I not holding back at all with this one. Maybe I'll do a part 2 to this one because we have so many replies and we, again, still have time left before Legends Fest starts. But I definitely do think there's been a downturn in the quality of the game this year, which is sad to say because I think 2023 was very good. I think 2023 was the best year of the game, period. And there's just been something going on this year. They just are not using their brains this year for some reason, but hope you guys enjoyed anyway, and I will see you in the next one.